Alright, since I will be gone again today, my son has strep throat. Hopefully he'll be going back to school on Wednesday, so my hope is to be there on Wednesday. But instead of giving you kind of a random worksheet again, I'm going to go ahead and start into our next unit. So we're going to start getting into radicals. This is a very easy topic in Math 1. You don't really do any that are complicated at all, and you'll progress to harder ones when you get to Math 2. But a radical is a general term for like a square root or a cube root or a fourth root or a fifth root. Right, so it's kind of just a general term. When you say a radical, it could mean any of those types. Just has this type of a symbol with your problem. Now, one of the things that I do want you to notice is when I'm talking about a square root. This is really where we stick in Math 1. We're going to stay in square roots. Well, when I look at a cube root, it has a little 3 right there, and I look at a fourth root, it has a little 4 right there. When you're dealing with a square root, it does not have a number right there. It's assumed to be a 2, because the most common radical you deal with is a square root. So if you don't see one there, which is called your index, if you don't see that there, that just means that it's a square root. If you want to, you can put that little 2 there, but you don't have to, okay? It's the same thing as that right there. It's just always assumed to be a 2 because that's the most common one that's ever used. So if it's really anything other than 2 is when you start putting a different number there. And you're not going to be dealing with cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots, etc. until you guys get to Math 2. So in Math 1, everything's going to be a square root, and they're going to have what I call perfect square roots. So if you need anything from the screen, go ahead and get it. I'm going to change screens. Okay. So the nice thing, and why I was saying this is so much easier in Math 1 than it is in future courses, is you're only going to be dealing with what I call perfect square roots, where the square root comes out to a nice, pretty number. There's no leftovers, there's no decimals, there's nothing left under the radical. So, for example, the square root of 1 is just 1. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. You're probably starting to sense this pattern here. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 100 is 10. And the square root of 121 is 11. Now, it could go farther than that, but hopefully you're kind of starting to see the pattern to these. And these are ones, if you don't already have these memorized, these are probably ones you may want to. It's going to help you with your Math 1. It's also going to help you when you guys get to Math 2 or Math 3. Now, I do want you to see where these numbers kind of come from. So, where I'm getting these 2's necessarily to them. For example, I guess I'll start with the 4's. What that 4 actually means, it's the same thing as doing 2 squared. So really what you're getting to is your answer is this number down here at the bottom. Just like a 9 is the same thing as 3 squared. See how this is the number at the bottom. Or 16 is the same thing as 4 squared. And that 4 is the answer that we're necessarily getting with these. Now, that's not really a huge deal in Math 1, that you recognize that that's where it comes from. But you should be able to simplify like a square root of 4, square root of 9, square root of 16. So if you don't have those written down in your notes, go ahead and do so, because you're going to be using them for all the ones in Math 1. So again, these numbers technically go forever, but really past the square root of 144, which is 12, you really don't see many beyond that, especially at the Math 1 level. So really, these ones, you should already know them from middle school, but if you don't, you do need to know them for Math 1. So if you need any of these, just go ahead and pause your screen. Okay. Now, in Math 1, well, at least I should say, in middle school, you dealt with square roots, which is numbers. Math 1, you're going to start dealing with variables. But, kind of like the numbers, you're going to be dealing with what I call perfect variables. When you take the square root of them, they come out to a really nice thing. So, the square root of x squared is actually just going to be an x to the first. And I'm going to go through some of these, and I want you to see what the pattern is as you're doing them. So a square root of x to the fourth, even though I know that doesn't quite look like a 4, it was supposed to be. Square root of x to the fourth is x squared. Square root of x to the sixth is x to the third. Square root of x to the eighth is x to the fourth. So hopefully you're noticing a little bit of a pattern here when I'm putting these in here. Now I'm going to put a little bit of a highlight on here. Oh, sorry, it's not a very pretty color. Okay, as I'm just trying to get a highlight and I'm not finding a very nice color. I guess this will work. What I do want you guys to notice is whatever the exponent is up here on the x, in the final answer, the part that's not under the radical anymore, it's always going to be half of that. See, like here's a 4, becomes an x squared. 6 becomes an x to the third. And 8 comes to x to the fourth. So when you take the square root of these, it's always going to be half of the exponent you started with. Okay? So again, if you want to write that in your notes, go ahead and pause the video. But the new exponent is always going to be half of what you had before. And you don't have to have just one variable in there. So I could have something like the square root of x to the 10th and y to the 4th. Okay? Well, again, you're only going to be dealing with perfect radicals or variables in Math 1. So I see with this x value, I have an exponent of 10. So it's going to be half of that. It's going to be an x to the 5th. And if you notice, the radical's gone. And this was a y to the 4th under there, so that's going to become a y to the 2nd. Okay? And then we're going to go through and look at some that have numbers and variables in there, because that's what you're going to see in Math 1. So if you need anything from the screen, go ahead and get it. Alright, so I'm going to throw a couple of them up there. Let's say square root of 49, let's say m to the 6th. We'll do a square root of 36, x to the 4th, y to the 2nd. And we'll do a square root of 121, x to the 4th, y to the 8th, and let's say z to the 10th. Okay? These are all examples of ones that you will see in Math 1 on the final exam. More than likely on the non-calculator. That's why I was saying you do want to go through and actually learn what those radicals are. Alright, so first off with this one, I'm going to change my color. We're going to have to deal with the square root of 49. Well, the square root of 49, if you remember, is just 7. And now we have to deal with this m to the 6th. Well, it's always going to be half of that, so that becomes an m to the 3rd. And that's our final answer. If you notice, there's no radical. These are all in Math 1 are going to be perfect radicals, so there's not going to be any leftovers. You're not going to have anything left under the radical like you will in Math 2. Alright, same kind of idea with this one. Square root of 36 is 6. And then we have to do the square root of x to the 4th, which is going to be x squared. And the square root of y squared, which is going to be a y to the 1st. Now remember, you don't normally write, if it doesn't have an exponent, it's assumed to be a 1. So, I mean, you can write the 1, I'm not going to mark you wrong. But if this was your exam question, it would not include that extra 1 as an exponent. Alright, so this next one's a decently large one. So square root of 121 from the previous gram is 11. Square root of x to the 4th, the x to the 2nd. Square root of y to the 8th, is y to the 4th. And square root of z to the 10th is z to the 5th. Okay. So again, the ones that you see in Math 1 are not going to be that hard. You just have to be able to simplify them out.